This is Mrs. O'Neill for your Chapter 8 Review Questions and Problems. Again, notice the visual on bonding. We want to remember that bonding is a force that chemists came up with to try to explain how these atoms interact with each other and form bonds. But again, it's a human model. Okay. We also want to remember that compounds have a zero charge, right? Our positives have to equal our negatives. As always, you're going to go through the video, pausing when you see that question or problem. Sometimes there are multiple parts. You can do them either mentally or on paper. You still want to have out a calculator and your reference sheets out. You're going to continue playing the video to see the answers on the next slide. And some of these are above and beyond what you're going to see on the test, but very helpful on the AP exam. So number one, again, pause. Again, we're dealing with elements, so your periodic table is probably really helpful right now. Okay, and your answers are A. Again, read over, pause, read over, make sure that makes sense. And I also have up here your electronegativity values of those elements, again, which is very helpful because the more electronegativity you have, or the closer you are to fluorine, the more attraction you're going to have for those electrons from other elements. B, again, I'd like to give you that visual to get you to understand the radius, the size of those atoms. I thought that was a really nice visual. Letter C. And yes, you want to have all of those dots. I will tell you that the free response questions, when you have to draw out a Lewis diagram, they want to see the dots that represent those pairs of electrons, okay? D, and hopefully that makes sense. Again, trends with group numbers and charges. Oops, sorry, I don't know what happened there. Electronegativity, number 2. Okay, so I will tell you that A, you might be kind of scratching your head, or you might have said, well, if it's a decomposition, we're just going to break it up into the 3 elements, which I'm going to say that most likely that might happen. And if you needed to do a decomposition reaction or predict those products, which most likely you won't have to do, they probably would accept it. However, this is your true answer to A. It's actually sodium hydride. And one of the reasons why I like to keep this question in here is not to trick you or to get you to not understand the products. It's to get you to see a reaction that's different from things that you've seen in the past. Your sodium aluminum hydride here is going to break up into 3 components, but one of them actually is the sodium hydride. So again, you're not going to have to predict products, not even on the AP exam, but I wanted to show you this reaction because it's something that you're not normal to see. And so I don't want the AP exam to kind of trick you, right? This is not a trick question or not a trick reaction, but it does exist. So that's why I still have this on here. Your answer to B. C. And yes, since it's a polyatomic ion, I strongly suggest you using brackets of some sort and put the charge on the outside, because that will show everybody, the readers, that you understand that it's a polyatomic ion. It's this whole component with a charge. Number 3, oxidizing power. So hopefully you read over that and came up with some answers. And here is your A answers. Here is your B answers. Letter C, again, pause and make sure to read over that. And D. Okay, hopefully you paused and read over that. And just a forewarning, an oxyanion, right? An anion is your negative component of the compound, and an oxyanion would just be an anion that contains oxygen. So basically your polyatomic ions that contain some form of oxygen, whether it be 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them. Number 4, while you're pausing and reading, I am going to give you a table on the next slide in order to finish the problem. So here's the table. I think it's pretty clear if you want to take a screenshot of it, or you may look in the book. This is just the table from chapter 8 in the book. All right, so hopefully you answered now. So here's your answer to number 4. And again, hopefully that makes sense. And your numbers should be very, very close, if not the same. Again, depending on how you put it in your calculator. So if you multiply, add, multiply, and get a number and hold it, and then do the subtraction part and hold it, and then do your subtraction, one big number minus another big number, your 200 here might be slightly different. But if you put it all in your calculator at one time, you might get that 200. So it just depends. And again, on the AP exam, they are going to give you that range because they understand that some kids just put it all in their calculator at one time and some kind of do bits and pieces along the way. And number 5, just to bring to your attention, again, I'm going to have that table on the next slide again to help you out. Okay, so hopefully you read that over, and here is that chart again if you need it. And now let's move on to the answers. So here's answer to A, B, C, and D. And I want to bring to your attention that because there's a 2 here, right? Those are 2 moles of the substance in the combustion reaction. So we need to divide our answer by 2 to get per mole. It specifically said per mole. So again, on your AP exam, that per mole that would have been written in the question, I would have highlighted or circled or something just to make sure that when I go back and look at my answer, I go, okay, it was per mole, something to make sure to remember. And this is a little bit of that explanation. Again, if there was some kind of, hey, justification that you would have needed. So pause and again, read over that because it's important information. Okay, so hopefully you paused and read that and hopefully it was helpful and maybe a little bit more understanding now. All right, good luck on that test.